overarching talking points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
And welcome back. Here's a look at some of the political headlines of the past week. The LISD Board of Trustees voted this week to turn Dunbar College Prep Academy into a charter school, along with Alderson, Urban, and Hodges Elementary Schools. That would form what they call the Lubbock Partnership Network. A nonprofit group will then help oversee the school's development and improvement measures over the course of the 3-year agreement. The Lubbock District Attorney gave a brief update on the investigation into alleged wrongdoing in the Lubbock County Medical Examiner's Office, saying that Texas Rangers are still investigating, and once that's over, the results will be sent to the Texas Attorney General. In other words, don't call us, call them. And the Tech Board of Regents named a new chairman and vice chairman this week. The new chair is Fort Worth native Chris Huckabee. He's the CEO of Huckabee Architecture and has been on the board since 2015. Dallas's Michael Lewis is the new vice chair. There's been a lot of yeah buts in Washington lately on topics related to our farmers and ranchers. The president saying this week the trade negotiations with China are going well, but the president also said the tariffs would likely stay in place for a substantial period of time to make sure China lives up to the agreement. Well, Mr. Trump also told ag leaders they had his support, but then word that the administration's budget slashed ag spending by 15%. Our Raquel Martin has more.
We're fighting for our great farmers.
It's a promise repeated by the president since the campaign. But this week, the Trump administration announced plans to slash agriculture spending by 15% and cut $26 million from federal crop insurance.
You can't just say you're going to do something and then not have the policy that actually backs up what you say.
Illinois Democrat Sherry Bustos blasted the president's 2020 budget proposal. She says the administration is kicking farmers while they're down.
Their income is down by half. Their number of bankruptcies are at the highest level they've been in the last decade.
Many farmers are struggling as corn and soybean prices sag because of the trade disputes with China.
Family farmers are facing tough times right now. We've got to do everything we can to help them.
Cuts to crop insurance have struck a chord with the ag industry. The program helps farmers stay in business when unpredictable weather or markets depress crop prices. The Trump administration says the program is overly generous. More than 200 organizations, including the U.S. Farm Bureau, have sent a letter to Congress asking it to step in. But Illinois Republican Congressman Rodney Davis says not to worry.
We get a lot of questions about presidential budgets every year that they're introduced, and not one time has that budget or any of the concerns ever been implemented into law.
Davis says the president's record proves he's on their side.
We don't need the budget to tell us where the priorities are for this administration.
Davis and lawmakers on both parties are now vowing to unite and protect the programs. In Washington, I'm Raquel Martin.
Thank you. And the Executive Vice President of Plains Cotton Growers, Steve Left's here. Good to see you again, my friend.
Glad to be here.
I know you were in D.C. again recently and traveling all over, so we wanted to get an update from you on the latest. So was it surprising to see a budget from the president who had just pledged his love again for producers, but then in the next breath proposes huge cuts to crop insurance programs?
Yeah, I love my farmers, but no, it wasn't a surprise, and not necessarily about this administration. Typically, regardless of party, the USDA budget or the administration budget always targets a lot of things in agriculture. You know, the thing that stands out that is troubling, that, you know, there was a 15% cut for USDA budget, whereas the rest of non-military spending items all took a 5% cut. It's kind of that age-old idea that somehow we're going to balance the budget on the back of 1% of the federal spending. Right. So, wasn't surprised. And thankfully, you know, it's probably not going anywhere. We just hate those ideas, those same old ideas of cutting subsidies for crop insurance, subsidies for Title I, cutting all those things that we've just negotiated in a farm bill that's been very important for our folks.
Now, the good thing is, we mentioned in the piece here a minute ago, presidential budgets really aren't necessarily followed all that much, but parts can be used as guidelines for other things. No doubt. Does that make your job, and folks who go up there and lobby, even tougher now to try to basically go back in and say, okay, we really need all of these things in there?
It does, and it just gives kind of more bullets in the gun as such to our critics that, you know, you've got the administration supporting some of the same things that we were fighting off no more than 6 months ago. So it does make it tougher, but thankfully, you know, we've done a lot of that groundwork already with Congress. And at the end of the day, Congress will write the budget, and they will do the appropriation bills and stuff, and so that's who we have to convince and make sure everything's good.
Definitely so. Well, cotton growers here have some new ways to structure risk management with that farm bill we talked about, with cotton back under Title I and everything.
Yes, sir.
How are the rules coming along as far as getting all those written and getting that information out to everybody so we can get started on all that?
I think it's coming along as, kind of as expected. The government shutdown slowed things down, but, they're back up and running, and we're hoping to see parts of the rules start being released anytime now. We probably won't see sign up for the new program until sometime late summer, maybe early fall. So there's still a lot to be done and taken care of, but they're going to be coming along and be taken care of where they can be done in a timely fashion.
And if rain doesn't show up, some folks will be looking for maybe alternative crops and things like that, and the issues, and that brings up more issues with soybeans and corn and things like that. And now we start talking about the trade and tariff deal with China. The president's mentioned he thinks those talks are going well, but some commodities, and I mentioned soybeans, I saw those recently, have kind of been taking a hit. What's the latest you're hearing as far as getting a deal done, maybe easing off some of those tariffs a bit?
Well, we're hopeful that, this deal can get done. We supported the administration to try to hold China and our trading partners accountable to what they've agreed to in previous agreements. But the fact of the matter is, we depend greatly on these export markets. And so we're hopeful that there will be, number one, a conclusion to USMCA, the Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. That'll be signed and put into law sometime this year, we hope, and that there can be a conclusion to these China trade talks so we can get these tariffs out of the way and get back to some kind of normal export market.
You mentioned the North American agreement. Trying to get that finalized has been a little bit of an issue, kind of a long time coming. How would that be different than NAFTA and some of the old agreements, and how quickly that could implement it?
Really, from our perspective, from the cotton and most agricultural products I'm aware of, the agreement doesn't change all that much. It modernizes it a little bit, but it codifies and continues the agreement, which has been important to a lot of agricultural products, especially Texas agricultural products that move not only into Mexico, but then on through Central America as well. So not a lot of changes as far as we're concerned, and so that's why we're just hopeful that this thing's going to get signed and back into place.
What's the overall status of everybody as we move into spring here? Still have been dealing with drought conditions off and on. How are we looking just from an overall economic standpoint?
Well, overall, I think lots of folks, it depends on where you're at. Overall, we didn't make as good a crop as what we made in 2017. It was an above average crop, over 4 million bales. But I think the one thing that is better this time than it was this time last year, our moisture conditions are much better than what they are. We're in a light drought, moderate drought still, need some more rain like we got last week, but we're much better than we were this time last year. So it always helps people to be hopeful when their moisture situation is pretty good, and we're hopeful that we'll get a little more rain here sometime in the next couple of months where we'll be ready to go come the 1st of May.
All right. Come back soon for another update. We need to know what's going on. This guy knows.
Be glad to.
Steve Redden, Plains Cotton Growers. See you. And coming up, all we asked of you about being ordered to vaccinate your children, the results of that poll, and a talk with parents on both sides of the issue. Next on Talking Poll.
It's the